Good afternoon and welcome to everybody to the penultimate session of the CETA BIM Gathering 21. And it's great to be here, and it's great to, it's great, a fantastic 3 days, an event, fantastic speakers, and I really am delighted to be here. The Gathering 21 has focused on construction innovation for future generations. But we're going to pose some questions about that later on in this session. What does that mean in practical terms? And what do we need to do as an industry to help make this a reality today? In particular, this session, we're looking at people are the key to success. And we have some fantastic speakers in Herman, Velko and David, who are going to present, and we're going to ask them some questions at the end. I'd like to thank in particular to Alan, Suzanne, and all the team indeed in CETA for inviting me to chair this session, and also to our speakers for making time to be here today. I know they're all really busy, and this is an international conference. We have people coming in from around the world to share with us their knowledge of projects they're working on and their experiences. First up today is Herman Van Eden. Herman is a senior consultant with RIB based in Dubai. He started his career as a quantity surveyor in South Africa prior to relocating to Dubai, where he became a chartered soon afterwards. He now spends his time training clients to use Costex, providing guidance on implementing software and making it fit into the current workflows across numerous different projects. RIB software itself, well, Herman will tell you all about that, but really it's a pioneering enterprise committed to driving innovation, technological advances in the construction and real estate industries. Over to you, Herman, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mark, for that introduction. I was going to preempt my talk with a little introduction, but after that I feel like I should just get straight into it. So as Mark has said, we are in the afternoon session of day 3, and it's a real privilege to be among, like Mark has said, as of some fantastic speakers. So thanks for having me, and thanks for joining us again this afternoon. I hope all of you have not done all of the sessions and are completely Zoom lagged by now, and that you still have a little bit of energy left for us, because I'm sure that in this last session we still have quite a bit to show you. Again, my name is Herman. I'm a senior consultant with RIB, and we make a software, or our main feature software is called Costex, or i2 Costex, which I'll show you a little bit of later. My topic for this afternoon is BIM revisions and how to bring cost plans to life. And like Mark has said, my history is leaning towards more of a QS background, and that's also coincidentally what our software is all about. So it fits perfectly, and let me get into that. So as a QS, I'm sure all of us, and not only quantity surveyors, all consultants are familiar with what scope creep is. I'll like to just remind you with 2 short definitions. The first one being a progressive growth of project quantum and quality over that provided in the project cost budget. Obviously, as a QS, cost budget is the prime thing that we focus on, and scope creep is obviously a major cause of some of these cost overruns. It can also be defined as changes to the building function, the quantum, and the quality, which occur regularly throughout the design process, having a direct impact on the project cost budget. Now, how scope creep appears and why it appears is actually a bit of a non-brainer if we consider the traditional construction and procurement process, meaning the disconnectedness between the communications between different stakeholders, which leads to certain assumptions being made. And it lends itself to having restrictions from inherited design posed down or fed down the value chain, so to speak. The separate designs also creates further staggered issues in terms of coordination, and the effects of these by one party, the effects of the change of one party is very often translated into issues on some of the other parties' designs. So BIM, and it's illustrated in this little graphic. You'll see quantity surveyor all the way down on the right-hand side. And you can just see that that feeding chain lends itself to massive issues. Now, the reason that I show you this is really not to try and educate you or say something simple that you've maybe known since your uni days, but it's really to just put a new spin on BIM, because very often with BIM talks, the focus is very much on the design aspect of it or on the visual aid that it can give, whereas I like to tell people that BIM is more than just a new design tool or a visual aid. It's actually a whole new philosophy, and it's actually trying to turn that old workflow not even on its head, but do away with that old workflow altogether and really encourage collaboration between different teams. And the benefits of this is numerous, and it's really significant in that it can give you, first of all, the simulation and the analysis ability to analyze the appearance, the cost, and the long-term performance of the building. It can improve speed of the design first and foremost. It gives you the ability to test and prove your design before work even starts on site. And it also allows all the team members to contribute to the creation of better buildings delivered faster and with reduced wastage and environmental impact. The complications that comes with it and with BIM revisions is that with BIM, it also gives designers the ability to create buildings of increased complexity with more dramatic building forms, which obviously from a QS point of view makes it harder to quantify if you just see that on a two-dimensional representation. It can also, again, waste a lot of your time, or take a lot of your time, not necessarily waste a lot of your time. And this invokes a heightened aspect of risk for the estimator to accurately assess the associated quantities and costs with these forms. So the next step, and the way that we will try to alleviate this, is to, as the quantity surveyors, also come out of the dark ages, so to speak, and to keep up with the technology and have some technology of our own that helps us to take off and give us improved accuracy of these quantities that we love so much. And what that translates to in our solution called i2Costex is it gives you, or it enables you, to do a rapid analysis of comparative designs and run different scenarios and run those different design scenarios through the process a bit faster, and give you a whole project cost idea and the time savings associated with extracting those quantities quicker. It gives you increased accuracy, like I said, with greater certainty of the cost. It also gives you live links between the elements that you see on the drawing into your estimate or your bill of quantities, with apparent benefits of that. And it gives you the ability to feed back into the design team a bit faster or at an earlier stage, and makes the approach a bit more collaborative and involve yourself in the design process as well. I'll swap into i2Costex to give you a short demonstration of the solution. I've got it open already, and for those of you who have never seen it before, I'm unfortunately will not spend the time to go through a full demonstration. I will just show you a brief demonstration of it, but we have a wealth of resources on YouTube and on our website, and we are happy to do live demonstrations for you as well if you are interested in seeing what the solution is capable of in its entirety. So in short, we basically have what we call a dimension view. And you can see that on the left-hand side. And this is where you would have all of your drawings as well as your dimension groups. And then we have the costing view where we have our workbooks. And this is where you would have your estimates or your bill of quantities. So on the dimension view where we have our drawings, you'll see I've got a 3D drawing imported in here already. It's a very basic structural model. We support quite a few different 3D or BIM drawing types, Revit being one of them, and then IFC and DWFX being the two that are probably the most widely used and the recommended ones in terms of performance. So Within Costex, you can import the model and you can explore the model and all of the object properties associated with that model. So the benefit of this is you can go and find and see what it is in the model that you will actually use for your descriptions and in your bill of quantities or in your estimate. Things like the dimensions, things like possibly some of the materials that might be identified in here, or the sizes, etc. Now, there's a whole nother conversation that can happen with regards to verifying the quantities. That's obviously also possible, but for the sake of this presentation, I won't go into that detail. You can also view all of those details in the drawing schedule or the object schedule that you can see here at the bottom, which is essentially just a list of all of the object properties that's displayed within the model. And you can filter that according to the columns that you require. Now, how we then go about measuring, there's a few options. The first few options we'll just briefly skim over today. And that is essentially you can manually go and measure on the drawing as you would on a 2D drawing, or you can import using either a template that we have already developed, which is sort of a way more generic one, or you can create what we call a model map, which is essentially a user-defined template. Now, with these user-defined templates, you then work your way through the model tree and define a definition of how you would like each of these items measured based on the information that you have in those object properties that we've mentioned. You then run the import using that model map, and it produces the quantities for you. You can obviously go and validate those and see where they have then been measured. Because I did it all in bulk, all of it's in the same color, but you can do it with and run different colors against these dimension groups. You'll see them highlight on the drawing as I move through those different items. Then you go into your workbook. Mine is a very basic estimate layout, similar to maybe what you might be familiar with in POMI. You can set it up according to any of the standards that you use, whether that's POMI or NRM. And for the detail, you then go in and you create your live links. So for my slab on grade, a live link is defined by the green item, or a green item is a live link. And that gives me the ability to click on the show source button, and it takes me to the drawing or to the item and shows me in the drawing where it is. I am able to also isolate items. Oops, let's just zoom out a little bit. Isolate and highlight and filter the drawing to see and inspect certain elements of that drawing. I'll just turn all of that back on to get my drawing back. Then once you're done with your estimate, or possibly even before you're done with your first estimate, the nature of our job, obviously we will receive our first revision or revised drawing. And luckily, Costex lends itself to improve that workflow significantly as well. Instead of doing a full remeasure and reinventing the wheel, because you've already mapped out and created your model map, it's actually possible to go and measure using that same model map, because again, you would obviously compare the different model trees and see that your definitions are still relevant and still correct, and it hasn't changed too dramatically. But for the most part, it should all still be relevant. So you go and create a new revision, and once you've created the revision, you'll see your previous revision gets locked. So the padlock showing you that it's locked. And that then gives you the option to promote the old drawing to the new or the changed drawing that you have in your file. Once you've then promoted the drawing, you can keep track of it with the drawing register. You can give it a new name if you want, and click the update button. You get call it a warning sign to say that the previous revision contained BIM dimensions, which has not yet been promoted. So first of all, you should verify the unit of measure in the schedule. and then you can set the external properties file for the new revision if that's applicable. The external properties is another really good aspect of Costex and how we treat them, in that as the QS, you can actually add your own user-defined properties to the model as well. So if that's maybe a costing code that you want to include, or a elemental code or a trade code for whatever, or whatever really that you want to add to the model, you are able to add that as an external properties file to the drawing. So after you've done that, you can then go and promote using or promote your BIM dimensions. Now, Costex will remember what your methodology was to measure your original drawing. And once you click the promote BIM, you'll see all of my quantities have been zeroed. So you can click the promote BIM dimensions, and that will run through the previous measurement methodology and pick up all the items that have been measured and verify their consistency. And their quantities and all of the items that you've measured. Then you get another warning to say that any changed or deleted BIM dimensions has been revised. However, you should use the import again to ensure that any new items has been picked up. So just the technical side of how that actually works is each item in the model has a unique identifier attached to it. And the benefit of this is first and foremost that it ensures that you don't duplicate or measure anything twice. And then on the other hand, it gives Costex the ability to validate those items, first of all, against, like I said, duplication, but also to ensure that they've been picked up and adjusted in here. Now, before running that import again, I'll do a quick drawing comparison. You can see you can compare it to any of your previous revisions. I only have one, so that's only an option. And that then overlays the two models for you and shows you all of the changes that has occurred. You have different layers available to show you the items that have stayed the same if you want to hide that. Then any items that has changed is the different after and different before. And this can be with regards to the orientation or the location or the size even. Any new items, let me hide the different, any deleted items, and the new items as well, which is a really useful visual aid to identify quickly where the changes has occurred. Then you go to your dimensions and you choose to import again using your model map. You'll see model maps, or when you create, you won't see it here. When you create a model maps are either global or project specific. And in this case, it's a project specific one that we've created for BIM structure. And that will just run through all of the items again, ensure or won't duplicate any of them, but pick up any of the new items like that warning told us it would do. Once it's then picked up those items, we can then go to our estimate and promote our workbook as well. Because we have the items live linked, the benefit of that is that it will validate the quantities and change the quantities. I see that some of the items have actually changed in their description. That's why it has created new items, which in my mind it wasn't supposed to do. But obviously, because it's a live demonstration, it has gone ahead and done that. So that would need some further investigation. Sometimes a property does change to some extent, and you need to investigate that. But after you've done that, you can then generate certain reports within your workbook to do comparisons across the different revisions, view them side by side, see the effect that it's had on your total in terms of quantity and possibly even in terms of the cost as well. And that essentially is Costex and how we manage revisions in there. And just to bring it to a close, in summary, BIM can be employed to quickly measure and analyze alternative costs of the different scenarios and revisions that you have on your drawings, enabling you to give swift feedback to both your designers and your clients. And with implementing a software of your own as the QS, it gives you the ability to facilitate a collaborative BIM workflow for all of the stakeholders involved, improving the building design efficiency and performance. For more information, you guys can visit our website, and please do. And there's a contact form on there if you are interested in investigating it for yourself or your corporation. We'd be happy to assist. I think that brings it to a close for me. Thank you all for joining. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the session after the other speakers has also had their go. And I'll still be online if there are any questions directed at us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Herman, for that. And just while we're waiting for Velko to come in, one quick question, Herman, if I may. Can you introduce Ruckel Logic for ICMS in the software? It's a specific question for you. So, can
you introduce Rocco Logic?
For ICMS.
I know ICMS in terms of the international standards, obviously. So yes, Costex does lend itself to be fairly flexible in that regard. You can set up. Costex is, because we are only a piece of the puzzle, we know that we need to be flexible in terms of import and export options. We also have an open API to allow that integration. But a lot of those, like those phraseologies that I showed with regards to NRM and POMI, for instance, you can set that up within Excel and import a CSV to have that within Costex. I haven't heard of that, Rocco, yet. I'll actually research that quickly and know what, because I really don't know what that is. But okay. ICMS I have heard about, and yes, there's ways to set up your own version of Costex to be able to support any type of standard that you are working with.
Thank you, Herman, for that, and fantastic presentation. We'll have a more general Q&A at the end, and again, well done on the time. Now, for our next speaker, Velko Janik is CEO and co-founder of Bexel Consulting. He's a BIM expert and lecturer and creator of Bexel Manager Platform, winner of the Building Smart International Innovation Award 2020, if you don't mind. And he's been supporting digital transformation, open BIM workflows, and innovation in integrated BIM project management within his active role in BIM standardization through various international associations and committees. Currently, he's technical lead with Building Smart International Construction Room Steering Committee, and he is the president of BIM Serbia Association, co-founder of BIM Slovenia, and a member of the Slovenian and Serbian BIM committees for ISO standardization. Bexel Consulting, very briefly, it's a modern state-of-the-art technology vendor, construction, digital transformation, and engineering consultancy company. Winner of Building Smart International Innovation Award 2020, as previously mentioned. Velko, over to you, and thank you for being here, and good luck with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mark, for kind words and nice introduction. Many thanks to organizers, Alan, Susan, and the entire team. Thanks for having me today. Last two times, so long time, I haven't been in Dublin, but last two times I've been at CETA conference. I think it was 6-7 years ago, and it was very interesting. So first year we had to visit Guinness and especially Gravity Bar, and the year after that we visited the Jameson distillery. So I have to say that it was very interesting, helped us a lot, and I hope it helped. Somehow we become more creative after those visits, and I hope our presentations were more interesting. So looking forward to coming hopefully next year again to be in Dublin with you guys. Today I'm going to talk about innovations and maturity level in open BIM project management. Short introduction about us. So we are 16 years, sorry, in software development, and also we are consultants, and got a lot of awards for our Bexel Manager solution and integrated BIM approach. We try really to be focused on open BIM and believe open BIM is really the future of digitalization. What's about our solution? So if you are talking not about educational licenses, which are free, and I think they are used in more than 130 countries at the moment. We have customers, paying customers in 55 countries at the moment, and our solution is localized in 10 languages, and currently we are working on 6 new languages. We are very proud that 80% of our clients are large investors and public companies, but also large contractors and project management companies. We have also design companies and others, of course. So here are some references of very interesting projects around the world where BIM been involved. And I will start with this. So this is MBS report from 2020. And about the main barriers in BIM implementation. And the first one, no client demand. And I transfer this into BIM for the sake of BIM. So it means that we still do not understand all the benefits. We are not educated. We don't know how to use it. Maybe requirements are not appropriate, but it's from MBS report last year. And we have to do something about this. And to be honest, I saw thousands of projects around the world, lot of details, and I still see, especially in construction stage, that most of the projects are managed traditionally. And we have to openly say this. So 4D, 5D is there, of course, some excuses, but are primarily done just for marketing purposes and to fulfill the requirement of the clients. So challenge, everybody has a different project. 4D and 5D is natively done. Looking forward to see those projects and promote, of course. So that's where we are today. And this is again, McGraw-Hill stated that in design stage, it's more or less okay. Of course, could be better, but in a construction stage, where BIM is even more important because this is the cash most intensive phase with the most of the risks and challenges. More or less everything or almost everything done in traditional way. And that's the challenge. And we have to deal with this. This is the question of our technologies and also the education. The same idea. So, you know, construction schedules, and when we are talking about cost items and so on, thousands and thousands of tasks and cost items. So we need to transfer the industry to have more assembly line principles, and this is research done by McKinsey. So 5 to 10 times productivity boost. Whenever I saw something done manually, 10,000 tasks created manually, I say, come on, did you really do that? And how much time you need to do that. So we need to have automation in this. That's why we, of course, we've been involved also in ISO 19650 and PAS 1192. Those standards are really great and very important. But as with every standard, they are a bit vague, because we need to have consensus of all participants, all countries, and so on. So that's why we created digital transformation packages where we deliver to the clients really specific documents, data templates, checklists, and everything else, and templates of reports, which immediately helps you to implement this in a proper level. So not just on theoretical level, but on the practical level as well. Here is another benefit of our approach is single source of truth, so to have everything integrated. And essentially, whenever you change something, let's say in design, you immediately see the impact in the cost, in QTO, in construction schedule, in clash detection, and so on. So the idea is to integrate rules of measurements, various knowledge-based systems, and then to have analysis in a digital ecosystem. We are IFC certified by Building Smart, support fully IFC, BCF, and other standards as well. These are our 18 domains we have at the moment. So, and by combining those domains, so let's say in this case, just attributes and elements, it's information delivery specification and automated data enrichment. If you add the cost and schedule, then we can send back to designers cost and schedule information generating in the system, or can automatically create look ahead plans and so on. When we have a conflicts and zones, we could have a clash detection, but robust systems, so organize clashes, let's say per time of occurrence on the site, or have a containment analysis and so on. When we have a subcontractors, we can create look ahead plans according to subcontractors or some other very advanced reports and analysis. If you have a progress, we can have very advanced earned value analysis, CPI, SPI, and other KPIs, very important and crucial for project management. We always used to say that everything is about the data. That's why we call it building information, not building visualization model. And again, the idea is to replace first existing workflows and then add gadgets on top. So for this simulation, we have it for 15 years in our system. It's nice, it's useful, it's attractive, but if you don't have data, we will still manage the project in traditional way. And that's why what we would like to change. And of course, if you have all domains, you can have a full integration with ERP platforms, full data enrichment, reporting services, and various other benefits. Here is one example. We always start with the data checks and quality checks and geometry checks. And this is one of the workflows. You can have a number of workflows in our system. So create cost classifications and automatically create tasks. So the idea is, and I will just explain to you in a second, to utilize first existing data. So this is one project for next World Cup. Actually, it's finished now, so I can talk a bit more about this. But when we started working on that project, the model had 620,000 BIM elements, 28 million properties. Today, we will have around 50 or 60 million properties and 8,000 plus families. And again, how schedule was generated? Manually. Quantifications, more or less everything was done manually. So we forgot about huge amount of data, relations, everything, and do it from scratch, and then manually connect this with the BIM model. Very interesting workflow. So it took them 1 year to develop in traditional way 10,000 tasks for this project. And with our system, literally in 1 hour it was generated. Of course, and it was 50,000 tasks in relationships. But what was different is that we took a methodology, and that's the way how this is generated. So that's why when we are talking about 4D and 5D, we are talking about maturity levels, because everybody likes to talk about, okay, 5D, 4D, that's cool, to 6D, 7D, but where we are in maturity of those processes. And here are 3 levels, and how fast are those processes. So first one is traditional one, select the elements, manual quantifications, various tools, connection with Excel spreadsheets, and so on. In the second one, which is for example, great example is what, for example, Herman now presented, is literally you have a cost items, then you connect this with quantity formulas, assigned items. So just to mention, Bexel is not about 2D. So we don't support 2D because we believe future is in 3D. But of course, we understand 2D has to be supported still for certain projects. And then you attach those elements and have automatic quantity takeoffs and calculations. Everything is very good. The challenge is that sometimes we don't have a good cost databases which perfectly match the elements. So we have 10 BIM families with doors in the model, and another 100 in our cost database. So first we have to enrich the database, and then again update this cost process, and that's not too much additional work. So the idea is to automatically, based on the model, generate cost items and combine cost items with existing some classifications, and use all the properties that the system will automatically create 10 door types or even additional subtypes of the door for your project. And then when you are working on another project, you will have enriched automatically your database and perfect match. And even with some construction methodologies, you can add to each cost item, to each element, 3-4 different cost items like formwork, reinforcement, concrete pouring, and so on. And so this is example. So uniformity is a classification, but on the last level, or could be on the last 2 levels, we are using the properties, family names, or everything coming from the B model. And that's how we create the cost structure. And of course, all those queries, formulas, everything is automatically generated. Here is another example where you see this is a uniform classification, but this is a German DIN 276, or could be IFC based, could be Uniclass, could be Chinese standard, Indian standard, could be Russian standard. So we have examples in Italy, in Spain. Actually, today was a great Politecnico Milano example where they did a very excellent project for bridge, full Italian standards, and that's completely easy to be done in this system. The next thing is about 4D. Again, we have 3 levels. So 2 standard levels are most popular one. Though, okay, I have a Gantt chart developed, let's say, not want to name, one of the most popular platforms. And then we have a B model. And then just manually match those thousands of tasks and elements, and that's it. But planning, where planning is done? In traditional tool, not in BIM. So it's not BIM driven. We forgot those millions of properties and data and start from scratch. And it's prone to error and to mistakes. Advanced level 1 is auto match. In Bexel, this could be also done. But again, to do that manually, huge amount of work. And whenever you change something, again, huge additional work has to be done. So theoretically, you can do that, but in reality, you won't. Looking forward to see the example with when it is done properly. Division level 2 is that system automatically generates, based on the methodology, this schedule, and much faster. And then the system, by knowing the zones and methodologies, creates thousands of tasks. And whenever I update design, the system will update that schedule. And it's going to be always perfect match. And not just that, we will have all resources, activities, and quantities automatically attached. And not, of course, visualization is only nice to have at the end feature, and it's going to be fully integrated with flow lines, which are, saying that optimized schedules can be done without flow lines is simply very optimistic. And then we added containment clash. So if you don't have a containment defined, then the system can automatically say, okay, those elements, those valves, those pipes are in that zone or that space in the building, and that's how you organize a perfect not clash, how you prevent construction clashes. So not manually create schedule and then look for the clashes. From the start in the system, define rules and prevent clashes to occur. This is the vision, and that's level 3. This is an example for this World Cup. So with just 120 nodes created in one day, the system created more than 50,000 tasks and relationships. Fortunately, now the project is finished. Was it on time? No, there was some issues with roof, but it was not related to the BIM. It was to some issues in design, but fortunately now it's finished. So these are why we started with flow lines. These are examples. This is flow line for Empire State Building, the tallest building for 40 years, and it was built in less than 400 days. Today, we will need at least 2 to 4 years to do that. And it was developed with flow lines, not with Gantt charts. Of course, Gantt charts are critical path method is very important, but both analyses are important. And then in progress monitoring, the same. Whenever I see it's 50% finished, I say, come on, really? 50%, how come? Is it possible to have something 50%? It means it's not accurate. So the idea is to really, this is a traditional way. The second is when you put 50, 20, 30, those nice numbers are okay, but idea is to have full BIM-based in level 2 look-ahead plans, so to send to the site in digital format what has to be done per each subcontractor, per each trade, and so on, and then just fine-tune the progress, send it back. And then you will say, okay, 84.6. It's trustworthy because whenever you have red FIDIC, I'm in EFCA, Vice President of EFCA, BIM and the Digitalization Committee. Whenever you have dispute and red FIDIC, you spend so much time in the accurate measurement. And that's what has to be improved. And of course, if you have even a laser scanning and so on and certain additional automations, this can be even more accurate. So the idea is to utilize something designers spend 1 year or 2 years to develop in all phases of the project. So here our look ahead plans could be per subcontractor, per resource, per month, per day, and so on. So you can literally control your project in the way you would like. And this is one of the reports. You have a Gantt chart, earned value analysis, all costs, all tasks, cash flows, line of balance, and at the end simulation. Very nice. You can watch those videos. By the way, this presentation is available on our booth, and if you send email to info@Bexel Manager, it will be sent to all of you. Our marketing team will do that. So, and then here are reports, how to evaluate solution based on the reports the solution can produce. And here are some of reports analysis which could be generated, and those reports has to replace traditional ones. Otherwise, we will just add new gadgets, new burden to it, which is nice, very useful, but contractors will have still to do everything in traditional way, and it is not beneficial for them. So now these are earned value analysis, just to tell you that just with those 6 numbers and per each task, where we are in the project, director of one construction company can manage the project. Unfortunately, those earned value analysis he does not have, or have it at the end of the project when it's too late. So this is the idea. These are some sample reports, cost performance, schedule performance indexes, just to mention that you don't need to add any additional information and input, because you're just taking the data you already have in the system and use it in a very efficient way. So this by reports are very important. On what I mentioned here, you can visually see where you spent more money than it was planned and when less. When you have that data, or where carpenters were more efficient and where less, when you have those data, you can manage the project. Otherwise, it's just based guess and hope that your experience will somehow cope with the challenges of the project. And just to show you one case study for the end. So this is the tallest building now in our region in Southeast Europe. So, and it's 150,000 square meters in total. So in traditional way, it took 3 months to develop schedule without quantities, so just tasks and relationships. For manual quantity takeoff and cost estimation, it took 6 months. Schedule didn't have quantities, resources, and costs. On the other side, the workflow digital was 2 days for information delivery, specification, and data enrichment templates. Just 1 hour for data enrichment and data checks. 4 hours defining automatically zones and containment clash and fine-tuning it. In 1 hour, fully generated cost structure with 2,300 BIM cost items. Of course, those are full cost items, and 1 day for additional fine-tuning and checks. 1 hour for automated, it's literally a couple of minutes, but let's say just to verify if it works. 1 hour for BOQ verification and almost 10,000 line items. Then 7 days for integration with cost databases and communication with subcontractors. 1 day for construction methodology, 1 hour for schedule generation, 5,200 tasks, 75,000 activities. If you're interested, you can contact the investor and see if they are satisfied with this. So, and then at the end, in 2 days, what if scenarios, fully optimized schedule. So 15 times faster schedule, 14% optimized costs, and 74 days faster. 88 construction schedule. 88% of total budget is generated for BIM. 12% are generated based on meter. model, and in total we had 100% integrated 4D, 5D cost and schedule. The same was with the progress. So in a traditional way, more or less, supervisor full-time work just on calculating what's done, collecting the data, and so on. And the process here, you send to the side the data, collect the information, and it is 6 times faster, much more accurate. So 99% of the works or location time work conflicts were eliminated, and 83% of claims and disputes. This is average percentage of reduction of monthly payment certificate because it couldn't be justified. It's not just against contractor. The idea is to help build a more trustworthy relationship. And at the end, here are some benefits of the approach: fully integrated digital approach and solution. And I would just at the end thank you for your time and invite you to join BSI Summit next. Join us at BSI Summit next week, where we will have also very interesting open roundtable on Wednesday. Participants from 9 countries around the globe, and it's going to be fully free. So all other, you have to be registered. Thank you very much for your time, and all your questions at the end are most welcome, and looking forward to them. Thanks.
Philco, well done on that very detailed and thought-provoking presentation on innovations and maturity levels in OpenBIM. And we look forward to having some more questions on that at the end. So, what can I say about our final speaker? They often say we leave the best until last. The theme of today's last module here is people are key to success. And I would absolutely have to say that David is one of those, has to be one of those people. He's over 27 years experience in industry. He's a chartered construction manager by background. He's a director for digital strategy and innovation with AECOM. He was previously employed by Mace as head of BIM and technical services and PIM program director with Balfour Beatty prior to that. He's been involved in delivering innovative digital change, BIM and digital asset management strategies across the globe from UK, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, and so on. And I spoke to him this morning, and he's just back from Madrid. Additionally, he's vice chair of the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, and I first met David as part of the Scottish Futures Trust when I was working on a project in Scotland a good number of years back. A fellow of ICE, RICS and COIB. He's completed the virtual design and construction and construct at Stanford University. He's a visiting professor, if you don't mind, at both Heriot-Watt and Middlesex University. And he's a member of the BSI BIM Standards Committee. David, take it away.
Mark, thank you. And thank you to CETA for the opportunity to speak today. Mark, one of the things as well, I think the gathering is so important globally for industry with her. And I've got good memories. I've actually got my CETA tie on today. It was a present from the CETA committee, and I was told it was hand spun in Galway in one of your fine sort of craft shops called Marks and Spencer. So
don't you know, David? Don't you know, David? Galway are stuck in everything. So.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. But yeah, it is a real pleasure. And as Mark said, I feel the theme today about construction innovation for future generations has never been so important. So for us, it's a real honour to speak today. And one of the things from an AECOM point of view, we're hugely proud of the work that we do in Ireland. But as the conference starts to think about coming towards an end, I just hope everybody's had a really good week. And I think hopefully one of the things, you've actually had some time out, time to think and to share some new ideas, and hopefully you made some new virtual connections as well. But as Mark said, I think for me, my objective for the next 20 minutes is actually to give you some time to stimulate some thinking about the very near future, and allow you process and think about, back to our theme there, about the future professions, your own journey, and what does this sector transformation look like. So to start, you can see with my title, we talk about this Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. Well, you can imagine what that might look like there. Could it be that robots are laying bricks, drones carrying out surveys as they're doing already, And one of the big things we've seen, especially with some of the slides already from my fellow speakers, about improved connectivity, data management, AI, machine learning, all these things that's going to help you plan your projects better than humans ever could. But I think there's something that's really important before we talk about the technology. We have much to consider first in terms of what that looks like. So I think it's worth looking at where we are in our built environment. And I think it's fair to say we're at a pivotal moment. You know, Mark said I've been in this industry 27 years. I had my student years up within there. I cannot remember a time like this. You know, countries around the world are wrestling with unprecedented global shock. You know, those are the boundaries. That's coronavirus, you know, plus other constraints, but also new value drivers that are going to drive profound change. We will recover as an industry, but I think, you know, nobody knows how long that is going to take. And I think there's certainly one thing, change is going to happen. And I think that's going to be big change. And my presentation today is going to examine how technology has become increasingly capable. And we've seen from, you know, our last speakers how it's taken tasks that, you know, were once exclusively in that human domain and human professions. But we'll also look at the skills and knowledge that we need in the backdrop of a new era, especially how we keep a lid on, especially in terms of low carbon and fossil fuel emissions. So we've got to think, I think this is what this week's about. It's not thinking about us, but it's thinking about our planet, the future generations, and what we can do as part of CETA community and a global community to do that. I also think at the same time, we've got to consider what does a new tomorrow look like in the backdrop of a future of workplaces with strength and resilience. And I think what we're going to see, you know, I've heard from our speakers over the last couple of days, is a variety of potential futures, both virtually and physically, that we need to consider. And I think a big thing is increased focus on societal outcomes as well. And I think that's a goal for everyone that's on this conference today. I think we've got to consider, especially about technology, how we continue to value the social impact of our infrastructure, how we make better decisions, and particularly if we can help the most vulnerable in our society. And I think when we think about future generations, I think these are really key to them. But we talked about this thing called Industry 4.0, and I think all this thing that we're talking about is playing out in the backdrop of this fourth industrial evolution. I think that can be transformational. We're seeing, I know we've heard from some of our speakers earlier in the week about the increasing systems approach and that blurring of the lines between cyber and physical environments. And I think what we're starting to see is this introduction, if you like, of more capable systems that probably creates new opportunities and challenges for our sector. But I think the big thing, Mark and I were talking about earlier today, we're talking about today thing, is probably not about the technologies, it's more about having to create new mindsets that are focused on outcomes and different value propositions. And I think one of the things we know that, you know, history is going to tell us that technology will change things. In some cases, it might dismantle professions, but in others, that technology is set to actually become our co-worker. When you look at in terms of their 1910 pin setters, you know, in a bowling alley, and Mark, I think one of the things you'll see there is a young Alan Hoare up there in the far left-hand side, you know, setting some bowls with her. But you think that's dismantled, you know, a career path. But at the same time, we're starting to see artificial intelligence coming in. That is actually a co-worker. You can see an app here with AI that's actually going to help triage helping medical professions and not replacing it. But we've also talked about this thing, the long change of, you know, making things happen. We look back to, you know, the Victorian era, and there's a Rudyard Kipling poem. It's called A Truthful Song. Paul Morrell, who is our ex-construction advisor, used to say, it's a conversation that says, you know, he's fond of quote, it's a conversation with a Victorian house builder and one of the pharaohs. You can see the top of the typical thing within there that said, if you like, apart from the plumbing, he recognises everything that a house builder is doing. And the poem goes, you know, how little things have changed, things have altered in the building trade. I think that's so true. You can look at the difference between the two pictures. You know, has much changed? Well, we've got a wee bit more safety in terms of what we're doing, we've got high vis from there. But actually, I'm really hopeful. I look at some of our team today. This is some of our AECOM team. These are the digital natives. The work that they're doing in terms of, you know, how things are changing, I think is so important. You look at actually how they interact. You know, think about renewable design data. We're no longer looking at simple 2D CAD drawings. They're making much more accurate ways of doing things. So actually, I'm hopeful that long tail, you think it's a decade since the BIM mandate in the UK, and they've got an information management mandate, we are making a big difference. And I think the next generation that's coming in, of Generation Z, will move that dial for us. But let's go back. You know, the technology has been about for years. Look at that statement. We need to improve efficiency of construction, better procurement reform, more collaborative approach. So here's a question to everybody. Sit for a second and think, when did that quote get written? Mark, any ideas?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'd say it's probably, we're looking at 100 years ago, I'd say.
You're right, almost. 1944. We're still talking about the same things. You can see that picture. There's some degree of modern technology, some degree of prefabrication, but we were asking one department to change. We weren't thinking about procurement form. We weren't changing models. We weren't changing mindset. And I think that's hugely important going before. But we are talking about Industry 4.0. And, what does that offer? UK research and innovation gives an idea. It's about enabling a new frontier in terms of project delivery. You can see there, it's thinking about supporting better, safer related decision making. The big part of it is real-time access to information that's more transparent with better operability. And you can see one of the big things as well, there's more focus on off-site, advanced manufacture, modern method construction that are going to take high-risk activities off the site and into the factory. And I think for young people, that's going to become much more appealing in terms of what that looks like. You can see that came out a little bit. There was a young David Philp back in 2015, 6 years ago. I took a stab at not Industry 4.0, but this model of a construction 4.0 was my quite dangerous mark, half attempt, to look at the model. But I think the main thing is, whatever definition we give it, the big change brought by construction 4.0 seems to revolve very much about decentralized connection between physical elements and physical spaces and the cyberspaces, where that degree of ubiquitous connection within there. And I think the construction, so that connection between these two worlds already exists. We've got great technological approaches that we need to exploit, BMS, intelligent SCADA, IoT, and all the work we've been doing in creating that foundation of a secure BIM environment as well, that are hugely important. At AECOM, we actually see it as simple. We think about construction 4.0, yeah, it's a physical and digital built environment within there, and BIMs help us blossom with there. But the big thing, it's about fusing technology, innovation, but we've got very clear goals where we want to do it with clear value for safer and a greener built environment that's going to enhance society. And I think when we think about 4.0, we need to have very clear goals and success factors that sit around about it. And it's not just us, you've got the World Economic Forum within there, again, that posits that technology adoption, as illustrated in their slide, is key to enhancing the delivery and performance of our infrastructure systems. And you can see within there, if we apply or frame, if you like, the understanding of infrastructure as a systems of systems approach, but one that's focused, if you like, on improving outcomes for the people and the planet, then that systems of systems approach is really important to examine. So I want to examine it a little bit further, but you can see some of the key goals that they see, which was actually, I think, quite similar to my 2015 model. But one of the things that I think is a complete changer, a game changer, was published the other week. In the UK, we've now got the Transforming Infrastructure Performance, a roadmap to 2030. One of our key central government departments in there, and developed, as you can see in the diagram, what I think is hugely important, a new built environment model. And that model, as you can see, it looks to draw upon right at the top societal outcomes for the UN Sustainability Development Goals, an approach to decision making that's actually based on a very much interlinked nature of the built environment. You can see within there, right down the bottom, one of the hugely important things is the natural environment and the services they provide. And it's starting to embrace, if you like, a model of flourishing systems, a focus on our natural built environment as well as social. That's going to be so important, I think, to bring in Generation Z and making actually our built environment relevant to them. And this is built around about what's called a flourishing systems within there. This is a model that Centre for Digital Built Britain and the Cambridge Centre for Intelligent Infrastructure put. As a central idea of the paper is that's actually, I think, cynical and radical. The purpose of infrastructure is as simple as human flourishing. Therefore, infrastructure should be viewed and managed as a system of systems that we can see within a diagram. And today's about people, isn't it? And I think the purpose of infrastructure is to support and serve society. So we need to get better understanding and delivering the interconnected social, environmental, and economic outcomes. And you can see within there, this world of digital twinning is going to be key to it. We can start to make better decisions based upon real-time dynamic data. And we can start to think about better outcomes through better insights, decisions, and interventions. But the real goal comes when we can start to federate all these models together. I'm sure we've heard over the week about our journey towards a national digital twin. Key to this, though, is starting to develop an information model framework of our higher ontologies, and you'll hear more and more about what's called the GIG, which is within the TIP, which is looking at the government and industry interoperability group to make sure we can start to better share information, which is hugely important as well. But I think one of the biggest value drivers that's required around about is, we think about infrastructure, it's got a key role in supporting economic growth and supporting quality of life, but at a cost. And I think we've always got to remember that. The World Bank estimates that infrastructure construction and operations is probably 70% of our global emissions. But when we start to think about people coming in and innovation, they will want to win the battle in terms of emission reduction. And we need to change back to changing mindset with how we use our technologies and data to improve our client agenda. And again, when we talk about the change in mindset, there is something. Look at that. That was an industry, an organization that was so proud. Each day, Tumble supplies enough energy to melt 7 million tons of a glazer. Think about how much we've changed value and behaviors round about sustainability. And we talk about the future. Would you want to come in an industry that has that? We've got to rebrand. We've got to make sure that we are aligned with what Generation Z wants to happen as well. We've got to make sure our industry is appealing to them. I think at the same time, we've got to be unapologetic that we are starting to think about, as construction professionals, how we digitize, and we've heard from other speakers, automate within this, start to think about Industry 4.0. And when we do think about it, it is a move or greater move towards digitization and also automation. And we're starting to think more and more about prefabrication, and we're starting to think about advanced manufacture. In the UK, our government is moving more towards platform design and manufacture. And you can see these great sandpits we've now got. We've got the Manufacturing Technology Centre that's changed the way building and infrastructure are designed, but also how they're manufactured and integrated. And one I'm really proud of as well, Mark, on the right-hand side, and one of our vice chairs within there, since 2014, this is our Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, the UK's only innovation centre purely for construction within there, creating sandpits. You can see one of our 6-axis robots to test things, especially in the backdrop of low carbon as well, which is hugely important. So I think this is really important. You can also see our government project via the Construction Innovation Hub within there, which posits again over the next decade that traditional construction will give way increasingly to Industry 4.0 and high performance manufactured options. You can see one of the hubs was there working with industry, trying to create design integrated standards that can be machine manufactured, focus on kits of parts. You can see the sub-assemblies there. One of the big things, though, if we are serious about this, is also creating the rule books within there. It's going to allow for integration and some can support multiple different types as well. So I think these are hugely, if you like, over there. And this is really important, though, isn't it? You look at other interests, we are competing against them, be it Formula One, be it biosciences, for the best talent within there. So we need to break the mold. We need to boost diversity within our sector and look at other industries. And we know that we need to draw upon these talent pools as well. Again, I think who've been previously underrepresented in the areas we need towards our sector. We know we're going to have an issue if we don't do it. So the shift towards Industry 4.0 needs to be at the heart of our change, thinking about diversity. And we must ensure that our organizations are modern and actually have the values that are going to attract that Generation Z within there. So for me, big part of it is how do we start inspiring children from the earliest of ages? How do we encourage them, their carers, their parents, to find out more about our sector and give them constructive work experience, placements and mentoring and connection to their jobs as well. So I think unashamedly, we've got to start looking at other industries as well. Also think as we modernize our approach, again, that backdrop, one of the big things we need to consider is how we look at value and evaluation, how it would be best defined and measured. You can see two things there on the right-hand side. The Construction Innovation Hub is setting out a new value toolkit, a suite of tools that will help drive faster, better decision-making within the context of measurable value improvement. Additionally, on the left-hand side, Scottish Future Trust, who you mentioned earlier, have a framework for better briefing and evaluation. And the whole idea behind this is each project has got its own unique value profile that's going to shape and set the value drivers. And again, I think that's hugely important. We can start to think about this. Back to our model, what we got to do to change. We need to think about mindset and we need to start to think about procuring more and more for value. But it comes down to this, doesn't it? Mark, I mean, hard to believe you said 27 years in the industry, but there's me and there's my daughter who's 15. Me, I'm probably the present, Generation X. I don't like to think I am, but I am, unfortunately. And my daughter, she's 15 years old. She is, a footballer, but she's also a modern day civil engineer apprentice. She's at college right now. She's also, I think, a digital native. She's been through the CIB lessons in Minecraft. And this afternoon, she's using software that's going to actually create complex, if you like, models within there. But her mindset is about being ethical, it's about being global. She wants to be a world changer. She's hyper-connected and she's experience-driven. Can we create what Sophie needs to come into our industry? You can imagine she's going to placement. The first thing that everybody tries to give her is a set of overalls that can't fit. I mean, she's a Navy girl. We need to get the experience that everybody's want to come in, back to diversity within there. So what does her profile look like? And is that going to meet the needs of construction 4.0? Are we doing enough within there? And I spoke to her about what skills do we think she'll need. And I think what she said herself, as a Generation Z, compared to my sort of Generation X, the journey is going to be different. It's going to be much more complex. I used to think it was T-shaped. You need to know about the whole built environment to some degree. You know how we all, be it planning, investment, construction, operation, asset management, still important, but she's got to learn about security. She's got to learn more about science and analytics, modern methods construction, probably some degree of coding, agile project management, and actually the science of innovation. But she's also got to stay as a disruptor, a storyteller, and a communicator. And these are hugely important in her skill sets going forward. Now, one of the things I would say today, it's important, I think, to create a future skills strategy. If you do one thing, give it, think about coming to a conference, but do something different on the Monday. And I think the CSIC Canvas is great in terms of doing this. You start with your vision, ensures a clear line of sight between what you want as a vision, but all your agents for change in your ecosystem, and think about the strategy, how it might inspire people within there for the early stages of making career decisions. So, Mark, I'll post the link for this later on with there, but again, it's a great canvas, I think, for organizations. So in summary, I hope, the next, couple of days you take time over cafes, other drinks are available to think about the future of your built environment. And you can see this is something I think is really important. I've used it a lot. It's from the Centre for Digital Built Britain. It's called 4 Futures, 1 Choice. It's a framework that provides a future lens that's going to enable you to view with clarity and detail 4 potential scenarios of what the future could look like, depending upon the decisions that you make now and the future. So think about your role in the future professions, your role as an actor, a mentor, influencer, and I think just do it for Sophie. Yeah. So Mark, I think that's probably my presentation over, and I hope it's given a few new ideas within there, but make sure that Sophie is going to want to join your organization. Think about the change you need to make for future generations. Think about yourselves as innovators, and I hope some degree of fresh ideas.
Thank you, David, and indeed all our speakers today for some fantastic presentations. Again, I just to open it up, we look at the theme of today, people are key to our success. If we look at even our last 3 speakers, there's obviously a mixture of technology and then people. And how do we bring those 2 things together to get where we need to go? If we look at what I mentioned in the opening, the CETA BIM Gathering 21 has focused on construction innovation for future generations. But what does this mean in practical terms? And what do we need to do as an industry to make this a reality today? So maybe in summary, Herman, maybe I'll go to you first. Obviously, we have some fantastic software. We have the skills piece around the people. We have all the processes. What do you think we need to do in practical terms to make the progress we need to make?
Yeah, I think, Dave sort of started this conversation a bit as well, and I understand it's been a part of the theme, I guess, as well in the whole day. And you're almost preaching to the choir that is, actually attending these sort of events, because I think it's really crucial, not necessarily to attend industry events, but like David said as well, to stay on top of what's happening in industry and to really have that yearning to continue growing, to continue advancing, and just do a little bit at a time. And I had a bit of a conversation a while back with someone just on a sort of a personal level, not really to do with work, but it's also about finding, not getting stagnant, because I think the construction industry, similar to that quote that Dave has mentioned, you can also get into this rut where you're just talking about the same thing for 80 years, and it's not, you're not really doing anything about it. So what are you personally doing? Because you become an advocate for something way better if you actually improve, or take some of the principles on yourself. And you may not be a person who's able to create a software that's going to transform the world, but you can do your bit in terms of digitization in your emails that you've been using for 20, 30, 40 years, and you're just still sending the same old emails, and some of it's very repetitive. Why don't you set up certain templates in your email? It's just a really simple and stupid example, but it sort of gets that mode or that wheel going in terms of questioning workflows and improving workflows on a personal level that will then translate into a grander scale, I think, is sort of my 2 cents. Yeah.
Thanks, Herman. Velko, if I could ask you the same question, construction innovation for future generations, what does that mean in practical terms, and what do we need to do to make it a reality today?
I have to be honest, I'm just last 16 years in construction industry. I was not before. I'm still surprised how certain tasks are not very attractive for young generations and for Dave's daughter. A lot of things has to be done manually, repeated, and so on. And that's why construction is not very attractive. When I was 15 years ago, more at SciFi, Stanford, one thing John Kuntz at that time was director told me is you created something interesting from something which is in reality very boring. And it was one of the biggest compliments to what we are doing. So we have to create something very attractive. The second issue is that what I watched, let's say, more than 1,000 projects in the last 10 years. And in most of the projects, those digital teams, I'm not talking about design stage, I'm construction stage, are working in a parallel. So they are like more, unfortunately, still entertainers. So bringing some new stuff, interesting simulations, videos, but traditional project managers are still managing the projects and say, okay, those guys are nice, this is required by the client and so on, but we are the guys who know how traditionally do planning, analysis, risks, and everything else. So what I hope with those digital transformation, that we will replace this and the BIM will become the core of project management of the company. And then we know where we succeed, when we succeeded in the process. And then the guys, young generations, will be attracted because they don't want to be on the side track. They would like to manage this and to be the core part of the team, not just additional requirement to deliver 4D. And the last thing, although I really like, and this is again very important what Dave mentioned, so about machine learning within construction room and within Building Smart International, we're talking about, we have also, I didn't mention even in our system, machine learning, AI algorithms, we are having plans to integrate with laser scans, a lot of cool things, robotics and so on. But in reality, what I see at the moment is a gap between marketing, what we present, and how we do stuff on the site. And so I don't want to go into details. You know all this very well. What is the difference between what you hear from one director at the summit somewhere and his way how they are doing stuff, and then just know what is in reality and how they collect the data on site and so on. And so that has to be, that gap has to be narrowed. So looking forward to the future, but also fill the gaps and replace existing traditional processes, make them less prone to errors, and of course, automate. So then we can be sure that this will be attractive for younger generations.
Thank you. David, I might ask you the same question, but in a slightly different way. And something that was said there just in relation to maybe even preaching to the converted. You know, I think I first met you in maybe 2012, 2013, you know, and a lot of us have been on this, call it BIM, digital 4.0 journey now for a number of years. It seems to be taking longer than it should to bring about the changes required, despite all the benefits that we know to be. Even some might describe it with some reluctant participation a factor to progress. Why do you think this is the case based on your years of experience, you know, at the front line, I would say?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I come back to your very first question, Mark, about, you know, what's needs to be done. I think it's the right question to the wrong people. I think you should be asking this. I think the problem is, you know, as you said, we've been doing this for 20 odd years. We need to be asking this to young people in schools and colleges just now. Ask us, what do we need to do to help you, you know, within your journey within there? You can see some of the questions coming in about what do we need to do now for Sophie in terms of, you know, global warming. The questions that we need to answer, you know, are there still cost or time? But, you know, we need to be putting through that we've got equally as much focus on data and questions around about, you know, carbon, both in terms of embodied and operational, you know, making sure we've got, you know, if you like, the health monitoring of any project there. And I think the move towards values doing, you know, it's a really good question in terms of, you know, have we moved the dial as much as we could? It's almost literally to, you know, the week, you know, 10 years since we started in terms of the information or the BIM level 2 mandate, now the information management mandate, you know, within the UK. You know, why is it taking so long? And, you know, have we dialed it within there? I'll be honest, I thought we'd have probably, if you said to me, you know, at the very beginning, you know, are we going fast enough? Probably not. And I think we overestimate within our industry, you know, the change within maybe our, you know, our first two, you know, our horizon 1 to 2, let's say the 0 to 2, 2 to 5, we overestimate. But I think it's fair to say we underestimate what we can do in the 0 to 10. And as we're going 0 to 10, okay, we maybe slow about some things. But actually, some of the things we're seeing change in industry, you know, as we move towards digital twinning, some of the things we are bringing in, especially for research partners, is quite incredible. But one of the things I think back to there, you know, it's changing the procurement, it's changing the behaviours model round about it. And I think, you know, equally shut in there. One of the big things as well is, you know, looking back, just the way the standards came out. The first one was on capital delivery and how BIM was going to support that. If you had your time again, I think it wouldn't have been great to have done the first one, which is focusing very much, if you like, on very much on asset management and operation first. And I think the sequence. Also, I think one of the things that's been a late one I'm passionate about is, again, soft landings. You know, again, clients that are more focused in like on operation performance with there. But I think we should be extremely pleased in terms of how much we are doing. I think we're lucky enough in the UK that the information management mandate is putting a new emphasis on it. But this time around, with a new business model. I think the last time, you know, the business model, we were testing things. And I think just where we are, we're now in a place where government's not just putting a pipeline and a mandate, but they're talking about a new built environment business model around about it, which is hugely important as well.
Thanks for that, David. Just before I go to some of the other questions, Harman, I'm just wondering, you know, standards, international standards and standards in general, you know, continue to be in transition. That's the nature of standards. What challenges is this presenting to industry on a daily basis in the delivery of our projects? You know, we're just getting used to one set of rules and then they change. How is that affecting somebody like you in the technology and also maybe in the people?
Yeah, I think Valco also sort of ventured into that argument as well with regards to the standards and the consistency across data. And that's, again, maybe a conversation for another day, but especially in a data-rich, and it touches on the Generation Z as well, you know, who's really prone to having a lot of data at their fingertips. And what we're seeing, or some of the struggles on a day-to-day basis, to be frank and to be honest with you, is, you know, data is all good and well, but if you don't have it structured and you don't have it, you know, codified, then it really becomes very useless, and you end up spending a lot of time trying to, you know, match one data set to the new rules or one set of standards to the new standards, and mapping ICMS to NRM, or mapping, X to Y and Y to Z, and then just starting off with A again, or AB this time, or AA this time, or whatever. So I think on the one hand, I say that, and I know it's part of the struggle. But on the other hand, I also, especially for instance, in the Middle East, and what Dave was saying about the UK being in a really privileged position with regards to, certain mandates being almost forced on it. And what I was thinking while Dave and Velko were speaking as well is that it will take something bold, or a very bold statement, to really affect dramatic change, because we can all sit back, 10, 20, 30 years from now, or even now, and just look back over the last 10 years, and progress is being made and certain workflows are being improved. But is that sufficient? Does it happen fast enough? And is it dramatic enough that change can really make a sufficient difference that it could? Because on the one hand, we are still wasting an enormous amount of resources that could otherwise have been helped, but yeah, I guess there's some powers beyond us that we can't necessarily influence like that. But in the same breath, personally, I do appreciate the standards and the mandates that are coming to really help drive the change. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Velko, you're at the cutting edge in terms of what you're doing with your own company, but also in terms of building smart. Your view on the international standards, standards continue to be in transition. How is that affecting your business?
I just want to introduce a new initiative we recently started as a construction room. So it's called IDM, a lot of technological words. So IDM MVD, Model View Definition for 4D and 5D. So we sent to all chapters our letter and invite all you to join us and to send us a feedback and good use cases, because we would like to standardize this on the global level. Standardization is the core of digitalization. So I used to say, maybe they are not Germans now, but I used to mention to them, you are already in a BIM without BIM, because you have good standards. And the rules of measurement and quantity surveying, art of quantity surveying in the UK is something we as a human society have to be proud on. This is digitalization without digitalization. So this is the core and very important. So we are looking forward to standardize all this in the future. And what I can envision, I can be 100% sure now, in 10, 20 years, all those, even rules of measurements, are going to be standardized, because gravity is the same cubic meters. 100 years ago, we had just in Europe 50 measurements just for length. Now only US is still struggling, and I think Myanmar with imperial. So could you imagine now doing quantifications with 50 units of measurement? We somehow standardize this, and I'm looking forward, and I'm 100% sure it's going to happen, not just because we want to do that, because simply it's logical to be done. So that's why I believe this is going to be the future of digital.
Thanks for that, Velko. Just really quickly, I know, David, you're under a little bit of pressure, but I want to, a question here has come in. How do we ensure the Generation Z has the affordable place to stay while being a third level student accommodation? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question. Obviously, number one is move to Scotland. Very affordable place to live. Like I said, but actually, I think these are really serious questions that need addressed within there. Number one is we do have to understand the questions that young people are going to have within there. I think we've got to, as something is proven as well, do we have to start to move into more virtualized models of pedagogy as well, in terms of what that looks like? I probably couldn't answer the question, but again, I think more than anything, we need to understand these problem statements. And one of the ones that we're doing within AECOM is we talk about mentoring. Yeah, we mentor, but the other thing as well we do is to reverse mentor. So we're learning from our new graduates and to learn, what are their pain points, things like, starting a family, what are these pressure points? And what can we do to create, better ways of working patterns for them within there? Big part for us now is around about, flexibility of that working within there. But I think understanding the problems, as I say, encourage people to do reverse mentoring. I think that's a big part as well.
Thanks for that, David. And again, just a really big thank you to Herman, Velko, and David for all your presentations, your participation. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Alan Hoare to do a sum up of what a fantastic 3 days the conference was. Thank you, Alan, and thanks everybody.
And thank you. They say knowledge is power. I learned so much this week, including, I suppose, our dependency on technology that let us down a few times, but it's been absolutely fantastic. If I could just say a few words about this last plenary session. I don't think I could have wished for a better session. I see David had to leave. The combination of Mark as one of our directors, Herman, you know, your company, RIB, have been with us for a number of years now, supporting us at the gathering. I thank you as a fellow QS as well. Velko, it's great to see you. My regards to Andre and Nedad and Tomo and all the guys in Slovenia. I was lucky enough to be at the opening and launch of that Slovenian BIM group. And indeed, the journey we had over the years in visiting Slovenia and many countries across the world, where we learned so much that built the Irish roadmap, was so my best regards to you, very fond memories. And we'll get back there to the Guinness Storehouse and to the Jameson Distillery. And to David, my good friend who had to leave, David, another director of CETA and a great supporter, my best wishes to him. It was also great to see so many quantity surveyors about today. Of course, we're taking over the world, you do know that. But you know, this program did develop organically, but it was really great to see such a vibrant debate about the future of quantity surveying and the need for more automation in that particular area. I thoroughly enjoyed this conference. You know, I think it was PJ yesterday, or in an email, talked about an extravaganza of innovation over the last 3 days. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? A lot to take in for the Irish government to learn what the takeaways from this. I'm not going to name everyone. I cannot do that because I'd be here for 10 to 15 minutes. But to our keynotes, 12 keynotes, we worked hard this year to pick the right people. And we just tipped the balance with 7 out of 12 of our keynotes as being female speakers. So we've worked extremely hard on the diversity piece. And I want to refer to Elia's passionate appeal earlier today. I'll come back to that about the need for a more diverse industry, but so many powerful messages coming from the keynote addresses. For example, PJ Rudden spoke day one about, you know, if we don't shape the built environment, it's going to shape us. Alan Waha spoke about, you know, this new rule book for digital integration. You know, Rebecca DiCicco spoke about the demise of human skills and the increase in AI skills, and that threat could be to us. And of course, just to finish with Claire Penny spoke about the need for us to come together. And that's really my big message, I suppose. Fortune favors the bold. And I think in Ireland, we've got to work together, all these different groups, to create a brighter future. I wanted to also thank our 36 additional speakers. I can't mention you all individually. I really am thankful for all your efforts. I tried to go to every presentation I could this week, and without exception, they were exceptional. So thank you. To those who produced papers, thank you. I just want to announce today that the proceedings will be published on Monday, the 4th of October. We're working our way through the editing of them, and if any one of our HEI members are with us now, and they can get me an ISBN number, that will be what triggers the production of it, because we need an ISBN number to make it a unique proceedings identifier. And we're also working through an event that we'll organize in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, where we'll bring those paper presenters together, and we will announce the top 3 awards, and also in the area of best industry paper, best academic paper, and best collaboration paper. To our sponsors, I need to mention these people because these people give us money, and this is what makes these events viable. So to Autodesk, to Bexel, to Colin, to Diatech, to Procure, Revisto, RIB, Celebri, Vectorworks, BRE, and 5D, Fifth Dimension. Thank you for your support. And indeed, it was great to see over the 3 days so many different speakers from academia, from industry, from government, a really concerted effort to try and drive the industry forward. What can I say about the backroom team? I'm blessed with the 4 ladies I work with. Suzanne, Shannon, Sam, and Alenia, you did a great job. And actually to CrowdComs, in fairness, you provided a great platform for us. And, you know, to Elaine and to Patrick and to Jack, all the people in the back room that made things happen, you know, we're going to continue to work with you guys. You have a great solution. Thank you. To our chairs for all the events, to Louise and Emma and Ken and Roger, Claire, John, Barry, Pat, Mary, Ralph, Gerard, Ross, Paul, and Mark. Thank you. You really have been a great help to us. To the organization committee, to the scientific committee, I'm almost done. Again, these things don't happen without huge effort being put into the background. I also wanted to just mention that powerful message from Elia today. Elia spoke about the underrepresentation in construction. We're going to try, I think 25% of the 73 contributions over the last 3 days were from females, but we need to work on that. There's no doubt about it. But I just thought I might mention that. It was also great to see such representation from the UK. And also actually through and Building Smart, but UK BIM Alliance, Building Smart International, the NBS. It was great to see Central Digital Build Britain, because, you know, they are our neighbours, they are our friends, they are people we do business with. We need to collaborate with these people. And it's great to see their contribution, and we truly, truly value it. So what can I say? Well, we're already looking forward to 2023. We're already looking forward to getting people back and having in-person events. It's been a different event. We can be thankful to Ralph Montague for coming up with this idea in 2013. Let's not forget what CETA is there to do, is to connect you to innovation, to be a voice for everyone in our sector. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support you've given us. I'm looking forward to having a few days rest now after what's been a hectic week, but thoroughly enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyable. So there's no doubt about it. Change is on the way, but it's great to see students back on campus, people back on our trains and our buses. It's fantastic. Good health to all of you, and thank you.